Yeah, I got my, you know, when I was with my ex-wife, I had to love her whatever she did in a funny way, you know, even if she was doing bad things, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's another difficult thing about love, you know.
Mm.
I mean, love can hurt sometimes, you know, and I did feel hurt
Yeah.
when my ex-wife was behaving like that, basically, you know. Basically, she met somebody on the internet, you know, sort of like on the last 2 years, and lost interest in me. You know what I mean? She wasn't interested in me anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I could feel it,
Yeah.
and it's not very nice feeling.
It
Do you
was
know what I mean?
noticeable. Yeah.
Not when I was trying my best. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Especially, you know, and trying to, you know, I loved her. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want
Yeah.
to lose her. Do you know what I mean? And I can understand what hurt is and the kind of way I've been through that pain.
Love can be painful.
It can be, you know, but you know, it's been a great lesson to me, you know, because I love my children. Do you know what I mean? We were so close, you know. You can imagine I left my, you know, I was forced out of my house when my daughter was 6 years old. Do you know what I mean? So she was quite attached to me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
You know, so it hurt her as well.
Yeah.
Everything, you know.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad, really, this happens to people. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think my children suffer, do you know what I mean? You know, because all they want is their mum and dad to be happy together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we weren't,
Mm.
you know. And it's difficult, isn't it? You know, when you're working hard, she's getting fed up at home and looking for something else, something a bit better. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't have the best job in the world, and it was quite a low wage, you know. And I think she wanted something a bit better than that. Let's put it that way. And that's the problem. But that's the problem out there. You know, there's so much sort of like competition out there and all this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? It's making the world a little bit sad, and it should be, I think.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And as I say, people fall in love with their cars. Do you know what I mean? And you think, you know, I told you, I don't love any car. You know, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea either, to be very honest with you. You know?
Well, you know, even if
I learned years ago that that whole being in love with materialism is just an illusion. You know.
well, what it does.
I learned that years ago. I understood that it really has materialistic things. Yes, it's nice to work hard to achieve something and to gain something. Yeah. Because then you value it. I understand that because I've been there, done it many times, like everyone else. You know. You work hard, you have a goal in mind or something you want to buy, it's something that's, you know, that might be good, you know, might be beneficial for your future, something that might help, your business or whatever the case may be. So yeah, you know, I've been there, so I understand it, you know. So yeah, yeah.
I can't remember what I was going to say now.
Yeah, me too. I lost my train of thought, but yeah. Love can be, like I say, love can be very painful. You know, obviously, especially when you're younger and you're first kind of going through your first phases of actually, you know, like being in a real serious relationship, like a real serious relationship where it's just you and that person, and you're both young and you're both madly in love and shit, and then when it don't work out, if it doesn't, a lot of time, because obviously you're young, a lot of time it doesn't last forever. Especially if you've been together for, you know, that's your first, like, you know, first person you've been really kind of like felt that kind of way about, if you see what I mean. And then after a few years, it just doesn't work out, and you kind of go separate ways. It can be hard, or you know, someone ends up cheating, or whatever the case may be, or that makes it even worse, like, or you know, whatever the case may be. So love can be painful, you know, and sometimes a lot of people, especially this younger generation, I find they're not as like don't seem as mentally strong as like the previous generations. So I find it's almost like they find it harder to deal with certain things. If you see what I mean, they find it, you know, it affects them even worse than kind of, you know. I don't think even worse, but I think they're just not as, like I said, just not as mentally strong as, you know, the previous generations. They're a lot more, you know, a lot more sensitive. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's kind of just the way society is today. But yeah, that's why you see a lot of younger people today too. They might, after they might have a relationship and it might end, and they might want to commit suicide or something. If you see what I mean, or and it's just like you're young, like you've got your whole life ahead of you, kind of thing. And that was the first, your first real experience exactly of love. And it's just like it's not worth ending your life over. That was an experience that lasted for a certain amount of time. Now it's time for you to do your healing. If you need time to heal, then you go through the healing process and find yourself again as a person, as a not just as not in a relationship, but as an individual now, obviously, just so and then get yourself back out there and move on with your life, and get on with it,
Personally, I think it's all down to education again,
Yeah.
I feel like even myself, like if my mum and dad didn't divorce
Yeah.
when I was 3, if they were together yet, if my schooling was better.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, to be honest, what is love really at the end? What is true love? Okay, and I really figured it out. It's taken me a long time to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish I knew what I knew now.
Yeah, back then.
A long time ago. Do you know what I mean? And I think I could have saved my marriage if I knew better. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And this is, I personally think it's all down to education. Schools are completely wrong. They're teaching a lot of things. Where, like I've said before, that I choose what I want to know. Okay, like there's certain things I don't want to know in life. Yeah, full stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to study guns. I don't want to study cars. Okay, not interested. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like when you're at school, they're pumping knowledge on you that you might not want to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, like for instance, English and maths, my mum could have taught me. As I was growing up. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes I feel like these schools are sort of like little prisons.
Yeah.
In a kind of way, and they don't look like prisons, of course, and they are looking after the children and all that, but they're still taking them off the mother and father, and taking all the bonds away, the natural bonds.
Yeah.
And so the children are just being brought up at school almost, with teachers that and they might be nice, a lot of them, whatever, but but then we don't really know, do we? Who they are, these people, or what their background is, at the end of the day, But I'm just sort of saying, so you're basically in this country anyway. You as soon as you're 5, you go to school. So you're not home with your mum anymore. Do you know what I mean? Or that's you're naturally you're being
the bonds are being.
Well, you're being brought up in a different
environment.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, different place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different surroundings, basically. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think a child will ever be happy in a kind of way in those sort of surroundings. Do you know what I mean? Away from the mother, away from the family. They want to. It's all being taken away from us without us knowing in a kind of way.
Yeah.
And I feel that love is kind of disappeared in a funny way, where like children should be taught at school the most important thing in life is to love yourself.
Yeah.
It's not educated basically, like when I was at school, for instance, I was forever getting taught off.
Yeah.
Day after day. And they sort of like give you marks, put red marks around if you spell it wrong. But really I felt like the teachers were more stricter than compassionate, do you know what I mean? And strict, sort of like nasty if you didn't do it right, or you'll get in trouble, like that,
Yeah.
And I feel that that's a scary world for children to be in a kind of way, like if you don't learn this, you'll be in trouble in a kind of way, or you're not going to do so well when you leave school and all this, and so on.
I think as even though it might be harsh, I think you need to prepare the children for the real world as early as possible, and be brutal, obviously you're going to put it in a way that they can digest it because they're children, you're not trying to scare them or worry them or make them anxious or fearful or any of those things, but I think the earlier you start preparing them for the real world when they're younger, the better, get them, especially when they get to a certain age, when they get to like 11, 12, start becoming a teenager, you can have really good in-depth conversations with them, then yeah, you know, you can really start teaching them what the real world is about and what is expected of them. And the reality is that today, if you're not educated to a certain degree, you're not literate to a certain degree, or whatever the case may be, you know what I mean, or, you know, financially literate, or whatever the case may be, you're not going to be able to survive that well in this world. You're going to struggle, if you see what I mean. Most people are struggling in this world that we live in today. A large majority of people are struggling, living check to check, you know what I mean. Might be 2 or 3 months away from, might be two or three paychecks away from eviction. If they didn't go to work, or something happened, you know, they weren't able to work, they might be 2 or 3 paychecks away from, you know, that might be all the money they've got saved up. You see what I mean?
Hanging on a thread, isn't it?
A lot of people in that situation today, you know. So
hanging on the thread, you know.
By a thread, yeah.
But even their car might go wrong, you know, or you know, it can bugger them right up in kind of way, you know.
So it's just about educating them from young, you know, teaching them what, and even about love too, you know. Sometimes my son's 10 now, you know what I mean, and he starts asking me little questions here and there, you know, little just, you know, he might watch something or see something or hear something, and he might naturally be like curious or inquisitive, and like start asking me questions. And I'm really quite, like, again, I'm very honest with him, like I said, but obviously you put it in a way that children can digest. You're not going to be, you know, too, you know, explicit about anything, or what, you know, children, you know, so you've got to, you know, but it's good to be honest, I think, you know, so that they have an understanding. So when they do get older, it doesn't come as a surprise, if you see what I mean. They're not kind of like taken aback, like you know, they didn't know what to expect, if you see what I mean. And you know, but I think the earlier you prepare them, the more they're going to be ready. So when they finally do get out there, they're going to take over. They're going to do great shit. You know what I mean? They're going to be on the top of their game. They're going to be earning lots of money, so they're not restricted and obligated by other people's, you know what I mean, other people's commitments, you know, obligated to other people, you know. So yeah, that's why I'm even preparing my son. I want my son to be financially free as young as possible, that he can just live and enjoy his life and do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? Same for my daughter as she gets older as well. You know what I mean? You got to instill in them from young. You know, if you want to have a good life, you don't want to struggle, you don't want to be stressing and worrying about money and all that kind of shit like a lot of people are, then you have to do certain things, you know what I mean? Certain things are required, and it might take a few years, it might take a few, you know, after you leave school, it might take a few years of hard work and graft to you know, to achieve that. But after you've put that 10 years in, 10, 15 years in, then you can relax, you know, you know, it can be a really good place and relax and enjoy and live your life. You see what I mean, you know? And by that point, maybe it might be in your, you know, early 30s, you know, it might be 40, you know? And you're retiring a hell of a lot younger than most people, you know? Not many people can say they're retiring at 40, 35, 40. So, you know, it's, you know, it's just about being, you know, just be educated, like we always say, mate. Education is so important, you know, so important.
It is.
Especially when it comes to love too, teaching your children about what relationships really mean and what the real value of a relationship is, and, you know, the right partner, you know, the qualities of which you should be looking for if you're looking for someone, you know, a long-term partner, you know, if you see what I mean, you know. So yeah, you know, education. You know.
Well, it is, like I say, it's very, very important that everyone really learns to love themselves. It's really important, you know. But at school, like I say, there's some sort of like things that some people get prefects, some people get rewarded, some people get good grades.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are on love.
Yeah.
They get left behind, and they feel wasted. They don't feel like living sometimes, even. Do you know what I mean? They don't feel that they belong because they're not getting rewarded. Do you know what I mean? They're putting backwards or something. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of, you know, there's only a few really that get the badges, you know, or get the good jobs in the end, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like the people that get left behind are the stronger people.
Yeah.
You see, that's the difference, you know, where the people that get it all and it's all nice and easy and they've been spoiled in a kind of way in life and had it easy, they've got it all to come.
Yeah.
In a funny way.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
Right.
You know, I feel like I've had a very, very, very difficult life when I think about it, you know, but now I'm starting to have an easy life in a funny way, you know, because I've had it so hard, I feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had to sort of learn how to cope in this world that I'm living in, you know.
How to navigate.
Well, God, you know, like my divorce was awful.
Yeah.
You know, I think I had 13 court cases, and that's a lot. That's to do with the children, house, everything, you know. It's a lot of court cases.
The whole proceedings.
It's a nightmare, you know, and you think, oh, married, oh, let's get married, let's have a lovely day. It's all beautiful, you know, and lovely photographs and cakes, whatever, you know. You have that day, and then not long after, it's all sort of being smashed up, do you know what I mean? Bricks being thrown through the window in a funny way, you know, it's all going to ruin, you know.
Yeah.
And like so, I mean, I moved to Canary Wharf, you know, and it's all very nice, and I was meeting some really interesting people.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, sort of like it was marriage therapy.
Okay.
You know, they kind of helped me, you know, through my difficulty, because I felt like I committed suicide, you know, I just lost absolutely everything that I worked for a number of years, you know, I'm talking about year after year, getting up in the morning, you know, all mornings, you know, working hard, you know, but I lost it all, you know what I mean? It's like throwing a £10 note away, you know, whatever, you know, more than that, you know what I mean? You know, it is, to me, it is more than £1 billion. You know, I'd rather lose £1 billion, that's the truth, than what I lost there. You know, I lost a house, garden, and everything, you know, my life really, you know, my dreams. And it felt like sometimes you know, living in Canary Wharf was a very nice place to live, you know, because there's, you know, a lot of happy people living around me at that time, you know. But I was very depressed, you know, in a kind of way, you know, and I was kind of hiding away a little bit, you know, depressed. But trying to be happy, you know, and get on with things, you know. But I felt like I was living in a coffin, you know, away from everything I loved, you know. And it really did hurt me, you know, so much that it's made me stronger, do you know what I mean? You know, I've gone through it now, and it's
went through the fire.
Yeah, it is. It's literally going through a
baptism of fire, as they say.
Yeah, now I'm looking forward to my future, you know. I'm glad today, when I look back, I think, I'm pleased I'm not with that woman, you know, she was so hard work. When I think about it, do you know what I mean? You know, like, so I didn't really, I did appreciate her, but I think that I just worked hard, do many jobs, you know, and you know, put her on a pedestal almost, do you know what I mean? And like, I didn't really love myself. I loved her more than I loved myself. You know, so that's probably why I lost her, do you know what I mean? So I think like, if I was educated, my mum and dad didn't break up, and I had the proper upbringing, none of this would have happened, do you know what I mean? I would have had a better life, let's put it that way. You know, and I think I feel like I would have saved my marriage if I was properly educated. And I feel like that's the case to everyone. You know, it's all down to educating. Teachers don't educate children how to love themselves. I don't think they even know some of them, do you know what I mean? I don't think even the teachers have been taught how to love themselves. That's the world we're living in. And I don't think even some of the parents have been taught to love themselves. You know, they're getting angry at home, and the child goes to school. I mean, some children go to school, right, and their parents are fine, they're not arguing. But some children go to school and their parents are sort of putting their out over things, you know. You know, so there's a complicated combination of children going in there.
Sometimes school is an escape for some children as well too.
Yeah, if they're being abused and things.
If they're growing up in an environment that's not a particularly great environment, there's a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of all sorts of shit going on that kids shouldn't really be exposed to. School is sometimes a great escape for kids too, you know. Sometimes
it's a nicer place to go.
Exactly. Sometimes there's some good schools out there, some really good teachers, and you know, they really kind of transform some kids' lives and kind of give some of them hope in some cases, you know. So you have to also shout out to those, you know, to the good teachers out there that are really, you know, in the job for the right reasons, you know, not just for a paycheck, you know, really invested into it because they want to, you know, help kids and, you know, realise that they're obviously the kids of the next generation, you know, they're the future, you know. So yeah, definitely.
It's a complicated world, really, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, some parents are good, some parents are not.
And not only that, but I remember growing up in the Caribbean, right, mate? And don't get me wrong, like I wasn't well off really. You know, my mum was on her own, and she had to work her ass off to provide for us kids, and she always worked her ass off. And you know, but there wasn't a lot of spare money, if you see what I mean. But we had a roof over our head, we had everything we needed, but there wasn't much spare money. But there were a lot of people that I remember, even in primary school. Yeah, one of my friends in primary school, I remember him saying to me, like, the only time sometimes he would eat, he would have a meal, is at lunchtime at primary school. And sometimes they would wonder why he would go back for a second helping. Because you could go back for a second helping occasionally if there was enough left over, if you were still hungry, you know what I mean, and you know there was enough left over, you know, you could go back for another helping. But so they would wonder why he'd go back for a second helping. But I remember even being young, we'd been like 9, 10 years old, not long before we went off to secondary school. And I remember him telling me sometimes the only time he would eat would be, you know what I mean? During the week anyway, sometimes the only time he would eat is when you'd have that meal at lunchtime at school. So you'd make sure you'd have a good meal kind of thing, you know what I mean? So, you know, because of obviously financial reasons, you know, not because obviously he's young and he can't really understand, you know, that much himself, if like, he's still young, you know, but he understands that, you know, survival, you know. So yeah. But yeah, going back to love is a beautiful thing. If there's two people working in harmony and in unity and kind of got the right minds, kind of right mentality and state of mind,